Jeff Koenig, Property Prep here. I wanted to put out another Friday video for you. We really appreciate all of your support. And this week we're going to talk about 5 things that we suggest that you do to get ready for summer. Today is the first day of summer and we're really excited for the warm weather. In Milwaukee, it's really heated up and it's really been a rainy week. The first thing that we always have to do when summer starts is evaluate our HVAC systems. HVAC is heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Those systems in this building, in particular a large commercial building, are on the roof. And those will need servicing such as belts and inspections quarterly is what we recommend, and if you really want to push it a little bit longer. But I really think that a company like ours, when we're evaluating your building, we're going to put together a maintenance plan, and quarterly is when we like to see the rooftop units serviced. And if you have a multifamily property where the heating and air conditioning systems are in the tenant's apartment, we're going to inspect those annually, but we're also going to change the filters at the interval on the filter itself, and it will mark it on the side of the filter. Those filters usually range from anywhere from a month for higher MERV filters, which means more filtration, and the lower MERV filters and cheaper filters that let more dust and debris by will sometimes last up to 90 days. The beauty of the higher MERV filters are that they are more comfortable for your environment, but the downside is they're more restrictive, which can cause increased wear and tear on your HVAC system. So we're going to evaluate that the system has filters changed. We're going to evaluate the belts on rooftop units. We're going to do a thorough inspection to make sure the air conditioner outside has all of the debris, and a lot of times there are weeds and dandelions that give off seeds that get stuck in the coil. We'll blow those all out for you and make sure that everything is functioning properly. So your AC is the number one thing that you need working, because a hot tenant is an angry tenant. So whether you operate a commercial building or a residential multifamily, we get our ACs checked every summer. The second item we want to talk about is our maintenance plan for the exterior of the building. This includes checking for caulking and tuck pointing. Tuck pointing is the mortar preservation between the bricks on the exterior of a building, and oftentimes that will degrade over time. So many of the buildings in Milwaukee are between 80 and 150 years old, and the mortar falls out of the joints and is eroded by rain and other inclement weather. So we need to go through periodically and do tuck pointing and caulking on the exterior of buildings. If your building is siding, or if it is aluminum or some other type of material, we want to check all the sealant joints that were specified originally by the architect to be sealed, and make sure that that bond is proper, and if it needs to be resealed, that we're doing that so that we're not allowing water intrusion where it shouldn't be. So tuck pointing and caulking can be very costly, and oftentimes as part of our property improvement plan for our HOA clients and some of our property management clients, we will pick one side of the building per year to do, or a section of the building to do every year, and that makes it more palatable for your P&L. So talk to us about timing and which face of the building is going to see the most weather, so we can prioritize which side of the building gets serviced first and what can fit your budget. The third thing we're going to talk about is also on the exterior, and that's your asphalt and your concrete. Let's start with asphalt. Asphalt gets bleached out and gets that nasty gray color and gets cracks in it. First thing you do is you come through, you tar all the cracks, and then you seal coat the whole thing. If it's an apartment building, we're gonna have to restripe it and put the numbers for the parking spaces in. If it's a strip center or a commercial building, we'll restripe it, and oftentimes there'll be handicap spaces and other ADA compliance that needs to be done. This requires different colored paint, and this should be done every 2 to 5 years, depending on your budget and the amount of sunlight seen at that property. Next, we go to concrete. Concrete is unique because in Wisconsin, we have the freeze and thaw cycle. And when the freeze and thaw happens, the concrete can buck, and those expansion joints that you see that are tooled in or cut into the concrete can rise and fall independently, because those are where concrete is designed to crack. So if the concrete lifts on one piece and above the other, create a trip hazard, and we can come through with a diamond grinder and grind that flat. If it's beyond the point at which we can grind it, we'll remove it and replace it. The next thing we want to do with concrete is check the pitch. Make sure that concrete is pitched a quarter bubble away from the building. Anytime we have concrete that's pitched towards the building, not only can it create ice issues in the winter, but in the summer it can create foundation issues when the water comes back and sits against the foundation, finding its way down past the footing and migrating through into the basement. So we want to definitely address that if we can, and that can be done via repouring the concrete or in some cases mud jacking, although that's become less and less popular because it's oftentimes a temporary fix. The second thing we want to look at is that joint, the expansion joint between the concrete and the building. There'll typically be an expansion joint of fiberboard or a piece of foam that is in between that joint that meets the building and the concrete, and that allows the concrete to move back and forth during the freeze and thaw cycles and the climate as it changes. So that joint, we really like to put a sealant over the top of it so that there are no weeds that are growing up and that there's no water intrusion. So checking that joint and making sure it's professionally sealed is another thing that we're able to offer. Also, concrete can get nasty. A lot of times in restaurant settings or strip malls, you'll have people that will drop their gum and there'll be oil stains in the parking lot from someone who's your tenant working on their car. We can come through with surface cleaners and surfactants and make sure that all of that is removed. Most often our company is used for graffiti removal, but we have the pressure washing system to make sure that we're able to do your concrete outside as well. The fourth thing we're going to do is another exterior inspection. The theme of this summer is really the exterior aside from the HVAC system. The summers are absolutely brutal in the Midwest and we get extreme temperatures. So many of the plants around your building have died, as well as the grass maybe not looking so great. So we're going to talk to you about a fertilization plan for your grass, and we're going to talk to you about replacing dead plants in your beds, as well as mulching, bed redefining, edging, and a general upkeep plan for your exterior landscaping, trimming trees, removing dead trees, replacing trees to create the best curb appeal we possibly can. This is really a service that we offer to HOAs. Really love this service. Apartment buildings who want more curb appeal to attract tenants in and bring them in off of the street to create a more inviting place for them to be, as well as in shopping centers where people want the aisles to look inviting and to not create an environment that's not clean and that would attract less than desirable people. So a clean property is a healthy property. So that's what we like to do, and that really increases the value of your property exponentially because there's the perceived value of curb appeal, and usually tenants are willing to pay more for a well-kept property. So an investment in lawn care, fertilization, and replacing dead plants can really increase the curb appeal, which can increase the value of your asset exponentially. Painting is the last thing that we want to talk about today. There are obviously a huge checklist that we go through with all of our clients, but the top 5 are the ones we talked about today. And one of the common ones on buildings that are painted is the painting. And on many commercial buildings that are block, we'll have to pressure wash, tuck point, and paint the entire building or a side of the building. But sometimes we'll have apartment buildings that have a masonry belt, and then they'll have a siding portion above that, and that needs to be painted every 5 to 12 years, depending on the quality of the paint, the preparation, and if the siding was had a factory applied finish. And painting is not something that anyone enjoys and usually doesn't create a ton of value unless you just purchase the property and you really want to change the curb appeal and upgrade it. It's something that needs to be done to keep the property in good condition, and putting off painting not only makes the property look bad, it also can cause damage to wooden surfaces and cause rot, which costs more down the road to fix. So staying on top of painting on a regular schedule is great. The other thing that we can offer is we have some interior designers that we work with, and we can do color consultations. And those color consultations, we can change the entire look of the building with just a coat of paint. And while painting usually doesn't create value, this is an instance where it can. We can take a building from the 70s that's had the same window trim color and the same soffit and fascia color and change that up to something more sophisticated with a few hours of a designer's time. And we can even render it using the computer to show you what it's going to look like. And that can create a night and day difference for a property and make it easier to lease and create value for our clients. Thanks for tuning in for another Friday video. It's been really exciting to watch the momentum of our channel. We're on our way towards 1,000 subscribers. Sharing this video with a friend, liking, subscribing, leaving a comment, and hitting the notification bell are the most important things for our channel to continue to see this growth. We would really appreciate your patronage because that's what the channel is really about. But if you're not local, hopefully you learned something that you can take away and use at your property. Last week we did a video on the 5 things I learned in my first 20 years in property management. I'd encourage you to watch that video and hopefully you can pick something from that up too. Today is the first day of summer. Get out and enjoy the limited time we have in the Midwest, and we'll see you next week for another great video.